Hello, beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is. And thank you for joining me here today. And if you are new to my YouTube channel, you can find me on YouTube, and that is at Starlight, and that is Kathy with a K, Dingman. Plus, you could give my videos a thumbs up, and you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't be afraid, don't be shy. Swing by and say hi to Starlight by leaving Starlight a comment down below. Beep, beep, beep. And you could share my videos with your family or friends. A hawk? Yes, I saw one today. And an owl. Whoo! An owl. Who? An owl. Yes, an owl. And you could check out my playlist. Plus, you could find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K, Dingman Starlight. And again, I want to say a huge thank you, yay, to all of you who have been there before I started YouTube, during, in between, and recently. So thank you, all of you who are here. Maybe you have subscribed or watched videos, giving me thumbs up, or leaving me a message down below, or even sharing my videos. Thank you so much. I wouldn't be able to do this without you here loving and supporting me, because guess what? We need each other. So anyway, I love you so much. So today, this video is about, are you envious of other people? You know, and I have to say, throughout my life, I've really never been envious of anyone, is because I always really believed that when you do the work, you'll get those things that you desire. So there's people out there that do, they envy other people. They envy people that are, you know, they envy people that they have a family and they don't, you know, they're alone. Then there's people that envy couples because they see that they're in love, you know. And there's people that envy people because of the job, you know, that they're, you know, or their own business, that they have a business. People will envy you over because you got a car and they don't. People will envy you because you got children and they don't. People will envy you because you're growing and they're not, or they're not growing like you are. You know, people will envy you because you got lots of money. People will envy you for all kinds of stuff. You got a pet and they can't have one. You know, you got a garden and they don't. You know, you got material, a lot of material stuff laying around and they don't. So it is, you might have all kinds of stuff going on where they're jealous of you, they're envious of you, of what is going on in your life and what you have. But a lot of times what happens is they don't realize, these people that are envious, the envious people, they want to see you fail. They don't want to see you grow. You know, there's a lot of people, you know, out there that are like this. And I just had somebody told me this to me, and it's like, those of you that watch my YouTube channel, it's crazy to find out, to even believe, to even think a thought like that, is, you know, to have somebody say, I am like kind of envious of you. Really? Me? You know, like, why are you envious of me? You have the house, the relationship, you know, the truck, the car, the garage, the dogs, the cat, you know, a job, all these things. But Starlight, I am very happy though. Even though I'm living in my car, serving God, I am the most happiest now than I was a long time ago, having the house, the relationship, and all those things. Why? Isn't that crazy? How could somebody be envious of me? They see the growth. There's things that I had to sacrifice to be where I am. And some of you might think you're not anywhere, Starlight, you're living in your car. But see, you don't understand who I'm becoming and what I've learned on the way. That's what matters to me more than material values. And, you know, there's things that I work on that nobody knows about. Only one, well, actually God and archangels and one person might know that I'm, you know, definitely one person out there that knows what I'm working on. So this is not finished. But there's people that will envy you because you're growing, but they don't realize the blood, sweat, and tears that goes along with where people are. They don't understand, like, a person that's a businessman or has lots of money or has wealth. They don't understand how many hours they had to put in and day out, working on the weekends, sacrificing time with their families. They don't realize, how hard it was and how many years they had to push and plow through all this stuff to get to where they are now. It could be 10 years of working, pushing to get, and there's some people out there, they don't want to work for what they desire. They just want it. Like that little girl on the Chocolate Factory is, I want it and I want it now. And that's not how this works. Those people, most of the people that have material stuff, they worked to get it. There's people out there that have material stuff and they stole to get it. They cheated their way to get it. But you know what? Are they going to be happy? No, they're not going to be happy. They're always going to feel guilty because that's not how God has it. They're going to feel guilty about having those things. So nobody really thinks about, like, really how hard somebody had to, all the hours and the time and the sacrifices, like letting go of even family time to create and make things happen in their life, trying to have that balance. The struggles that they had, the failures, the setbacks, the obstacles that got in the way, or was in the way, and they had to plow through that all to get to where they are financially, to be wealthy, to have abundance, to have prosperity. Like even relationships. You think relationships are easy? When you go out in public, it always looks easy, right? It always looks like, yeah, look at that, they look happy together. But you have no clue what is going on in the house. You have no clue of, like what it took for them to get together. You don't know what the battles were. There's times that people get together and they got family members that don't want to see them together. But you got friends that don't want to see that couple together because why? They're envious. They're like, hey, if you go with that chick or if you go with that guy, that means all your time is going to be locked away with that person, because that's what happens when people fall in love. Bam, they let go of family time a little bit more. They let go of family, friends, so they can build a relationship with that girl or that guy. So, but nobody understands, most people don't understand the sacrifices it takes to build a relationship and the blood, sweat, and tears that come into that. Some people, they see other people with in relationships, and like, I desire to be in a relationship like that, and they might even spend time with these couples, maybe at church or some kind of events, where the family gets together and they see a couple together. Instead of being happy for that couple and saying, hey, I wish you well, I'm glad to see you happy. No, there's people out there that would rather see you having problems. They're waiting for it to fail. They think that they could actually just jump right in there, and to act like they can control it all and to keep it all. So it's not about actually gaining those things. It's about keeping what you get. That's, and having that person happy. There's people that think that they can get in that relationship. They see that lady or that man. They're like, I don't want to see her with him. He deserves better than that. But you don't know the stuff that goes on behind closed doors. You don't know what goes on. You don't know, people put on a front, they fake it out in the world. They put a mask on where you think that, out in public, it's an act. It's an act, at the church. It's an act. It can be an act. Like, oh yeah. And then they get back home, and it's like, it's an act when they're outside. Oh yeah, it's an act, it's a show. And when they go home, it's like, And then when company shows up, I have witnessed so many people doing this in my life where, I never knew you guys were even having problems. I never heard anything. But, they didn't tell anybody. They didn't want nobody to know that their relationship was a mess. And they were struggling. They were fighting. They were having fights. There was a lot going on behind the scene. I never even knew about it. They covered it up. They didn't want anybody to know that they made a big, huge mistake. They got with the wrong one. They weren't willing to put that pride down and say, you know what? I goofed up. I jumped into this too quick. But now I feel like I got to impress everybody by, like it's a Hollywood movie. Like I got to act like I already, that we're happy. So they put the fake smiles on every time that they're together. They save it until they get home. When they get home, oh, you're gonna hear, on the way to the house, you're gonna hear about this when we get back. They don't see the struggle. They don't see how I got 11:11. So even with people that are in businesses that like like if there was a business and say they have 12 floors to this business, and when you get hired for the job, they don't, this company is smart. They're wise. They do their homework. They know people. And so what they do is when you get hired for the company, the only way you can get into that company is start from the bottom and work your way up to the 12th floor. That's where everybody wants it. They want to just jump in and like, hey, I'm at the 10th floor. No, they're like, no, you gotta prove to us that you're worthy enough to get up to the, there's a lot of money up on the 12th floor. There's things that we give you that we don't give on the first floor, like start you off like, we're gonna give you a cleaning job. You're gonna give me a cleaning job? I don't like clean. Well, do you want this position up there? Yeah, I do. Well, you got to start down here and let's see how you do. And can you show up on time? Can you do the work? Can you have a good attitude? Can you get along with others? If I ask you to work overtime, are you willing to? Can you really prove that you really want this up here, the 10th floor, because that's how this job works. There's going to be times that we're going to need you. At other times we don't need you that much. You still get your hours, but there's other times that we're going to need you more because the holidays and different things going on. But if you can't prove yourself on the first floor, how do you think you're going to get up to the 12th floor? So just like when I had my cleaning business, I actually goofed up and I told somebody something, and then, and I ate my words. I was like one of those things, you say something and, it took me a long time to be able to make, like, I started off on the wrong foot, $10 an hour when I was making that much at a company. But I started off at $10 an hour cleaning houses because I needed to learn how long it would take to get a house done. But then I stuck there. I stayed there for a long time. Those people were making a killing off of me on that kind of pay, like to pay me only $10 an hour when I'm really doing an hour plus another half hour after a while. So I was ripping myself off. I had to learn the hard way as get paid by the job, not by the hour. Starlight, what were you thinking? I wasn't. This is what I had to learn. So why would I want to hire somebody when it took me like so many years to finally make like $25 an hour? Oh, so I'm going to start you, which you haven't even worked for me. I don't even know what you're cleaning like. I don't know if you're, like I know you're an honest person. But how can I trust you? I got to trust you in somebody's house, and, where you want me to start you off. Here I'm making $25 an hour. You want me to start you off at $25 like where I am? It took me all this time, all these years to get this down and to finally get, to get more money. And so they want to just jump right in, without proving themselves. And there's companies out there that do this, that they have a big company, and because, you know, a friend comes in the picture, and or a family member that says, hey, I need a job, can you help me out? I heard you got this company, I'd like to, you know, get my foot in the door here and work for your company. So there's some people that weren't being wise. They were like, hey, you know, they put their guard down, and they hired people like their friends or family, and hired them and put them on the 10th floor without even getting, you know, they talked big, they said a lot, you know, the job, you know, like they said, hey, yeah. They never even checked their work. They never even called for, you know, to check their background out to find out if what they said was true. They believed them. They believed everything they said, you know, and they just hired them and put them right in the 10th floor and all that money. And it wasn't long. It didn't take long. You know, they had a hard time showing up. You know, they weren't even, you know, they were cutting a lot of corners. They could kill a business really quick. You get a lot of unhappy customers. It can kill a company. So don't be, you know, like envious of other people. You don't know how hard they had to work to get to where they are in life, just like relationships, all that stuff. You know, it's one thing to have a relationship. It's a totally different one is to how long is it going to last. That takes a lot of work, a lot of commitment, you're going to have a lot of things that are going to go on, you know, in the background. You know, nobody knows it. It's nobody's business, really, you know, what's going on. But you might look at it as they got the perfect couple. They're the perfect couple. They, you know, but you don't know the struggle. You don't know how hard it was for them to how many years have they've been married? 30 years? What do you think in 30 years you're going to just jump into, you know, some kind of relationship like that? It takes a lot. So you got to kind of start off, you know, not knowing anything and learning about each other and building that foundation that, you know, in that relationship. And it takes a lot of work to last 30 years in a relationship. There's people, you know, that they last 3 years or 5 years and are done. That's it. You know, they grow apart, whatever happens. So even having all this material possession and stuff, having a lot of money, you know, you don't realize, you know, the headaches that come with it. Yeah, money's great, you know, and it's not really here to, you know, it can kind of temporarily make us happy. But at the same time, money, you know, people think, oh yeah, I want to have a whole lot of money. Well, there's some people out there, they would be really bad with a lot of money. They don't know, you know, they don't know, you know, if they win the lottery, like a lot of people have, it could ruin your life. It could ruin your family, your relationships, because it could get to your head. There's people that have a lot of money, but you know what? God had to work in their life. God actually had to do a work in their life. God had to teach them things along the way to how to have a lot of money, be successful, help other people. Of course, that's how the money flows, is by, you know, sharing that with other people, either helping them out, you know, somehow or another with your wisdom or knowledge, or helping people out in the public, you know, giving it back somehow or another, you know, by maybe the things that you buy, you know, to keep things going. But nobody understands the struggle and the battles that what goes on behind, and how long it took them to get to that point of having that kind of money. Not just anybody can have that kind of money. It could go to their head. They could get, their ego could be like, yeah, you know, you're all that now. Now you could treat everybody else like crap because you, look at you got a lot of money. Then you end up losing the people that, you know, were there supporting you. Now they don't want nothing to do with you. They loved you before when you were broke. Now that you got all this money, you know, like a woman, because this doesn't just happen to men. Now, you know, now you're out buying all these expensive brand names and all these clothes and getting all this car and this and that. And now you're, you know, you're not even there for the ones that were there supporting you the whole time before you got there. You know, now nobody's good enough for you. You know, your shit don't even stink. You know, now you got, you know, I've met a lot of people like that out in public, you know, where They, you know, women and men, you know, they think that this outward appearance is everything that they need, and that's the only thing that they need. They, you know, they're just stuck on the outside, but their inside is rotten, you know. So it's not about the outward appearance of people and how much money they have, is what are they doing? Well, how is their heart? So don't be envious of people because they have lots of money, you know, they could have a mansion, you know, how many cars. It could be a pain in the ass at the same time, because now you're going to have so many people knocking on your door trying to get your money. And there's so many scammers out there scamming. You know, Starlight always told herself, when I make it rich, I'm not going to brag about that stuff, you know, like on a YouTube channel, I might inspire people in one way or another. But like if I like won a whole lot of money, I'm not telling anybody that I won that money. And if I wanted to go and bless other people with that money, I'd rather nobody to know shit about it, you know? Just anonymous, you know? Just, I'm not going to let you know, because that way people won't be pounding my door down, you know, calling me up, hacking in my, you know, getting my number, my address, finding out and sending me letters, you know, is, I would really want to pray to God and let God guide and direct me to what to do. But, you know, is don't be envious of people. Wish them well. What it is that we need to work hard, and that's what you need to do. Like if you know, you get envious of somebody because you see that they're growing, they're doing things that you never could dream of. You know, like with me in my situation, I had to sacrifice a lot of shit. You know, I had to let go of family. I had to do a lot of stuff. It's painful. Blood, sweat, and tears. But people don't see that. All they see is that, hey, I want to be where you are. I would like to live that lifestyle that you're living, Starlight. But really, they're not willing to let go. They're not willing to let go. They're holding too much tight on what they have. I just told somebody, you can do what I'm doing. Oh no, I can't do that. I got too much right here. But you don't understand. The wisdom and knowledge is so much greater than any material value that I've ever had in my life. The wisdom and knowledge means so much more to me than any dollar bill. So don't get mad at people, don't hate people, you know, work harder, keep your heart right. If you keep your heart right, and God sees that you're keeping your heart right, you're not cursing people out, you're not waiting for them to fall, you're not waiting to jump in there, you know, to take that, you know, that jab at somebody, God will bless you. But you got to believe in the process. You got to trust in God. You got to let go of that, you know, that way of thinking that, you know, that you could just have whatever you want without working for it. Because there's a lot of people like that. They believe that the world owes them something. And that's why I don't like I'm not into talk shows. You know, there's a lot of shit that goes on with those talk shows. So anyway, I love you. Keep your heart right with the people. God will bless you. Don't get envious at those people. Don't get upset. Don't wish them evil. Don't wish that, hey, I wish something bad happens to them. Because you know what? When you do that, you're bringing more that kind of energy back on you. I love you so much. This is Starlight. You could give this video a thumbs up. You could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, you can leave me a message down below, beep, beep, beep. And you could share these videos with your family or friends. How about people that you know that they're envious of you because you have a car? I've had people like that. Ah, will you have a car, Starlight? Yeah? You know what kind of freaking hell I went through with 2 kids getting that freaking car, and then it broke down, and then I needed to get the repairs. I had to work for that. But what were they doing? They weren't out working and plowing in the field like I was. No, they were getting the government money. Is it my fault that you don't have a car? No. That was hard work. I've lost how many cars? And started all over again. You know, so no. Keep your heart right with the people, you know, and yourself. I love you, and you could share this video, like I said, with people that are envious of you. And also check out my playlist, and you can find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K, Dingman Starlight. I love you all. God wants us to keep our hearts right with everyone, even those that you don't even believe that they got what they have. If you don't like it, it's too bad. You know, keep your heart right with those people. Pray for those people, and ask God and start working. Find out who you are and do that inner work. And if you really want something bad enough, you can do it. I love you so much. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight, love, light, and peace.